So the CDC released basically a junk study here. Let's just call it what it is. That a lot of experts, no matter where they're at on this subject matter of vaccinations, have been calling out. But they specifically released a study to try to prove basically that it goes against dozens of studies elsewhere, or a little over a dozen elsewhere that have said that basically, definitely in comparison to people that are double jabbed, that natural immunity seems to be more preferable in the sense of fighting future symptomatic infection. So they come out with a laboratory. This is for the CDC, and they came out with their own study, which goes against all those other studies. And watch how they word it. And you can see this at cdc.gov. This is the title. It says, laboratory confirmed COVID-19 among adults hospitals with COVID-19-like illness with infection-induced or mRNA vaccine-induced SARS-CoV-2 immunity, 9 states. So previous infection of SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19 vaccination can provide immunity and protection against SARS-CoV-2. That's what they said they already knew. Of course, the implications are that everybody should be vaccinated, including previous people that are vaccinated. So you can see that Thomas Massey, which we're going to go over some of his stuff, he's calling for the CDC director, Rochelle Walensky, to resign because of this nonsense and what she said. I'm trying to get the tweet here if I can find it right here. She said vaccination offers higher protection against severe disease than prior COVID-19 infection. Those unvaccinated and had a recent infection were 5 times more likely to have COVID than those recently fully vaccinated and without a prior infection. Get vaccinated, they say. Rochelle Walensky must resign. This is what Thomas Massey. She is blatantly abusing the public trust in her position. She directed CDC to produce an intentionally flawed study to further distort the results and willfully mislead the public. Let's go through, before we go through what Massey, who, by the way, he knows a little something about something, specifically considering that he went to MIT, I believe, for math. Martin Koldorf here, expert in his own right. This is what he had to say as well, and there are some other guys that are experts in it. The CDC study has a major statistical flaw, and the 5-time conclusion is wrong. It implicitly assumes that hospitalized respiratory patients are representative of the population, which they are not, and he was trying to get with the authors. You got some of these other professors. One more point, if the proportion of C-19 among patients hospitalized with severe respiratory diseases fell below 10%, CDC has to declare it the end of COVID-19 pandemics. This study shows simply that those participating in the hospital have very high misdiagnosis. Basically, let's go. In fact, let's go here. Let's listen to what Massey also pointed out. CDC used this paper to make an absurd, never before claimed and already unproven assertion that the vaccine is 5 times more effective than natural immunity at preventing people from testing positive for COVID. Testing, not symptoms, death, or hospitalization. Testing. So that's what the conclusion that they came to is like, okay, you're more likely or less likely if you get a vaccination is what they are saying to test positive is what they said. But let's talk about the flaws in it. As Massey points out, let's start with the one obvious flaw which the authors recognize but gloss over. Most of the few cases they characterize as reinfections are probably long COVID. They made no effort to verify recovery or that the infections were genetically unique. They just waited 90 days. So they didn't, which has the long COVID is a thing. And what that does kind of pertain to is those that have tested positive and test positive again later after the fact, having never recovered despite feeling better, basically. So in order for this to be a statistically accurate thing, they would have to, of course, document the recovery stage. So meaning basically testing negative and not having that and having any symptoms and then getting it again. And this is what it says in the study. To reduce the chance that hospitalization was related to an ongoing SARS-CoV-2 infection, patients were also excluded from the previous infection group if their most recent previous positive test result occurred 14 to 89 days before hospitalizations. Even more, the irony of this study is when they went looking for people who were hospitalized with COVID-like symptoms, they found over 6,000 who were vaccinated and only 1,000 who were unvaccinated and had prior COVID infection. Thought they told us 90%, 99% of the hospitalizations were unvaccinated. Sample size is more so what he's referring to. But let's talk about this one. This is about to start getting juicy here. The 6-page paper has over 50 authors. That's an average of 9 authors per page. Half a dozen of them disclose conflicts of interest with pharma. But is working for CDC categorized as conflict of interest? CDC was given $1 billion from Congress to promote the vaccines. All authors have completed and submitted to the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors Forum for disclosure of potential conflict of interest. So you have Stephanie A. reports support from Pfizer. We have another one from AstraZeneca, another one from Pfizer research funding. In their data, why does the number of vaccinated people hospitalized correlate negatively with time since vaccine? Could initial hospitalizations be due to vaccine adverse effects or due to temporary weakened immune system from the vaccine, which is a thing, or possibly just selection bias? And you can see this. So he's essentially saying that none of this makes sense. Dr. Rochelle Walensky, mischaracterization of the paper conceals that CDC's original tortured summary exposes. The study is junk because it only considers those with prior infection who ended up in the hospital, not the ones who didn't. Natural immunity helps prevent hospitalization. Long story short, guys, it's a sham of a fucking study. All it was utilized for was to give you a headline that they're already using to say you should get the vaccine. All of you should get the vaccine. People that have been talking about natural immunity are quacks. And they didn't even properly conduct the study. And he's right. If you're only getting the prior infection of those who ended up in the hospital, the point is that, well, the natural people that are naturally immune, they're not supposed to go there in the first place. So what they did was attempt to take all of these people that were there to make a claim that it was 5 times more likely to end up in a symptomatic infection or whatever is something that they call it. And along the way, they know this. Let me go back to myself real quick. This is important, and I would encourage you guys to go to my page. Maybe type in CDC or something like that, or no, it wouldn't be under CDC. Just type in on like studies or something. If you search my name, and you'll see the various amounts of studies that have happened all around the world, right? That have come to the conclusion that is completely antithetical to what it is that they're saying. The CDC muddied the numbers just to get a headline that is contrary to the idea that some people would get it naturally and recover from it. Now, what interest do they have in funding these pharmaceutical companies? I have no idea. Maybe they have stock in it. I don't know. Everybody has their little conspiracy theories. But this is beyond weird, at minimum, that they would put something out so flawed, but also flies in the face just against all the other studies, which have confirmed basically the complete opposite of what it is that they're saying. But they wanted to get the headline just so people say the experts said this, despite the other, look, there's like 15 other studies minimum that we've gone through that have come to a completely different conclusion. At best, you would say it's near equal, but most of them have said that it's better than the people that have gotten double jabbed. Why on earth would they do that? Aside, again, we're talking about conflict of interest. And this is something that has to be realistically discussed. But they won't. It's you are anti-science because you went against the CDC, who knowingly provided a junk study. It's kind of like y'all remember that study that the CDC did about the mask? And nobody reads the study, right? They just say, oh, double masking is basically, it's good, it's better. And we've come to find out they're using fucking mannequins and shit. If you actually read the actual study, they're using fucking mannequins. It's not like a random control trial or anything. It's just fucking mannequins. You guys are unbelievable. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.